What Debo Samuel said when he was being really critical of himself was he said he sat down with Kyle Shanahan, who showed him a bunch of tape from last year of Debo looking, from Debo's words, sluggish and not up to his standard. Kyle really showed him. It was an interesting story. What'd you think of it, Dad?
Okay. What? In other words, they sat down and they
Yeah,
watched tape.
yeah,
Meticulous. I've seen coaches do this. Meticulous. Look at what you did on this play. You
mhm,
know what you should have done. You
yeah,
and it's a teaching. It's not a
mhm.
gotcha. It's a
No,
teaching. Okay. So what struck me immediately, and I did point this out to Iggy. Here you have the head coach not saying to his um, wide receiver coach, I want you to talk to him about this. Here's the head
mhm,
coach saying, I'm going to bypass that coach. I'm going to
mhm,
do it directly.
mhm.
God love Kyle Shanahan. But I also said to Iggy, he couldn't do that with the quarterbacks. He
No, he
couldn't
couldn't.
sit down. Kyle cannot sit down with a quarterback and say, on this one, you should have done this because he doesn't know. He was a wide receiver. He wasn't a quarterback. So Bill Walsh used to say, I don't want to be at the mercy of my coordinators, offensive
Yeah,
and offensive def. I don't want to be at the mercy of them. Kyle is at the mercy of his quarterback coach because he doesn't know the grammar of the position. And his
right.
quarterback coach is greasy, who can't even look the media in the eye.
That's
That's
right.
not a good combo.
And what's interesting also, I'll come back to the quarterback for a second, but let's stick with the wide receiver. So the wide receiver coach couldn't do it, Leonard Hankerson, but Kyle did. See,
I
the
love it.
wide receiver coach used to be Wes Welker, and Wes Welker left with Mike McDaniel to go to Miami. Don't know why. Probably got more money. I'm thinking Wes Welker would have had that conversation with Debo. Wes Welker's a very forceful guy who played in the league recently and has high standards. I Leonard Hankerson was new. He was his first year as a coach. He's much younger than Wes Welker. Sounds to me like when you have to get tough with Debo, that's Kyle's job. Maybe the new wide receiver coach is a bit of a lightweight. Sorry.
Not a bit of a lightweight. He doesn't have the power in the organization
Fair.
yet.
Yeah,
That,
Debo has a lot of power, and so I
yeah.
think you need someone
So
with
not a lightweight.
matching.
It's
I take it
yeah.
back. I take it back. I'm
Okay.
sorry about that. But yeah,
Yeah.
that was one thing. Debo's so powerful, it took the head coach to actually get his attention. But yeah, there's no way that Kyle Shanahan could have that detailed of a conversation with a quarterback. With the quarterback, it would say, okay, well, it was cover 3, so you should have thrown it here. That's essentially how he talks to quarterbacks. Like, that's it. Okay, well, you do it then, Kyle. So easy.
I want to tell you who could have had that conversation with a quarterback. Bill Walsh.
Bill.
He understood everything about the position. He thought football through that position. He would have talked about footwork. He would have talked about looking at your progressions. And I'll tell you somebody else who could have done it. Mariucci. He
Yeah,
was a quarterback coach.
yeah. Kyle was a quarterback coach for 1 year of his life.
Yeah.
He's not. He was a position coach for 2 years of his life. He played a little wide receiver, so I guess he could talk about that position. But essentially, he's not a hands-on position coach. He is a X's and O's guy.
In addition, if you're a head coach, I think you need to be a hands-on quarterback coach.
I
It's
think you
not
do.
it's not like other positions.
Yeah,
Or let me put it like this. You need to know more about the grammar of the position than I think Kyle does. Bill did, Mariucci did, not this guy. And
how do you
that's
call yourself
why,
an offensive genius if you don't know how to
yeah,
coach a quarterback?
right.
How? That's a big gap in your offensive genius.
I think Andy Reid knows how to coach a quarterback.
Yeah, and he didn't play quarterback. He was like an offensive lineman, but he did
Yeah.
coach the position a little bit. Kyle doesn't know how to coach the position. I don't know. He could coach wide receiver, maybe. I mean,
I'll say another thing, Iggy. And I know Kyle, I'm sorry. I don't believe he knows how to coach the position at the level that you need to. He also can't evaluate the position. That's why
yeah,
he's
it's a
got three
combo.
quarterbacks.
It's a
It's a
combo.
combo. He can't Bill could evaluate in 10 snaps. He could evaluate his guys. I don't
Yeah, he
think this
could.
guy can.
Right. And I'm not saying, like, obviously it's not an easy skill. Not a lot of people can do what Bill Walsh did, but it's what you're looking for. And if you don't have a coach on your staff who can do that, you're still looking for that coach. Because, look, Kyle Shanahan does a lot of things well. He can't find the quarterback. He can't scout him. He can't. I mean, he lucked into freaking Brock Purdy, took him with the last pick in the draft. I don't know that he has much to offer Brock Purdy in terms of coaching other than giving him Christian
Oh,
McCaffrey
I
and some
would
good
say
players.
nothing.
Nothing.
Nothing. And
Nothing.
look who Bill Walsh surrounded himself with. He had
Yeah.
Holmgren. Holmgren, he knew how to get the best out of Favre. He had Dennis Green. He had
Sam
Sam
Weish.
Weish. He
Sam
had
Weish.
brilliant guys around him.
Yeah. And again, we're talking about Bill Walsh. So he was not looked at as some boy genius. He didn't get anointed at 30 as a head coach. He had to pay his dues. He was in Cincinnati a long time. And although he was probably calling plays there, he was also the quarterback coach for Ken Anderson. I mean, fixed his footwork. Then he went to the Chargers, fixed Dan Fouts' footwork. Like he had proven this stuff before he worked with Joe Montana. And he was like 50 when he worked with Joe Montana. Like Kyle hasn't done any of that stuff. He skipped it.
I think Bill was 49 when he got the 49.
Boom.
I could be wrong. He was in
right.
his 40s, and it might have been 49 when he got the
right.
Niners
Kyle's
job.
like 44 right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. I like what you say, skipped. It's like when you're studying a sequence like biology, he skipped, maybe organic chemistry. He skipped it. Yeah.
He's like, I don't need it.
Yeah.
I don't need it. Someone else will do it. Someone else will do my homework. Like, I'm really good at this one thing. Yeah, like your dad's scheme because you've been exposed to it since the birth of it. You're his son. Obviously, you're an expert in your dad's scheme, but you're not an expert on coaching quarterbacks. You're not an expert on picking quarterbacks. That's why you're having a quarterback competition, and you have no idea who's going to win it.
That's right. That's again, we're talking about window of opportunity for the Super Bowl. This is a hell of a team. They've done a beautiful job, except for quarterback. Oh, we have a great baseball team. We just don't have any pitchers.
Yeah.
We don't have any starting pitching.
And it's like what he should be doing. He should know that he can't evaluate and develop quarterbacks and just bring in veterans who are proven.
Yeah.
But he won't. He's got two 23-year-olds and a 25-year-old, and he's hoping one of them emerges in spite of him. Essentially.
And in spite of his quarterback's coach.
Correct. Like what he's looking for is Brian Greasy. He wants Brian Greasy, but that's his coach, not his quarterback.
I mean, how about bringing in Mike Holmgren as a consultant?
Yeah.
He's alive.
Yeah.
He's a nice man. Let him see some tape. How would that hurt?
Yeah. I mean, Mike Holmgren has a lot more of an eye for the quarterback position than Mike Shanahan or Kyle Shanahan or Brian Greasy or anyone in the Niners organization.
Yeah. Or Mariucci, he lives in the South Bay. How about, hey, Mariucci, would you take a look at this?
I just can't fathom that ever since the Niners got rid of Bill Walsh, he was the GM for a couple years in the late 90s and 2000s. He brought in Jeff Garcia. Ever since they got rid of him and Garcia, they haven't brought in one Pro Bowl quarterback. Like every other organization in the NFL has found one at one time in the last 20 years, except for the Niners. That's ridiculous. So yeah, the Shanahans aren't going to find him. Bring in someone else, Holmgren, someone.
Yeah.
Yeah. Darnold's the guy, Dad. He's the one.
Iggy, I haven't seen him. You're not that impressed with him?
You haven't seen him? You haven't seen him play? I mean,
not really.
Not really.
Iggy, I just watch 49er games because I like to be helpful to you.
Fair. Okay. What Kittle said about Lance, he's playing with confidence. He finally seems confident. He seems like he's having fun out there. Not Darnold. Darnold has a dour expression, like he's been, a failure for a long time, and he's sick of it, and he knows like he's never gonna have success. Like he just has this self-defeatist look on his face. He looks like he's miserable. I'm so sorry. He looks like he's miserable. And look, if George said Trey was playing with confidence, he would have said the same thing about Sam if it was true.
Yes.
Yeah. So
I'm sorry for Sam. I'm sorry for him.
I'm sorry for him too. And the thing is, the kind of coach who would build his confidence is Andy Reid, Mike Holmgren, Jim Harbaugh, Bill Walsh, not Kyle. Kyle will test your confidence. Kind of like John Gruden. John Gruden,
he would test your confidence.
That's why he needed a guy like Rich Gannon, because Rich Gannon was like 35 and would say screw you.
Absolutely, you could see them arguing.
Yeah, so Kyle needs that, but I don't think he knows he needs it. I don't think he would put up with it. And one thing in retrospect that was nice about Jimmy Garoppolo is he took all of Kyle Shanahan's negativity in stride. Now, by the end, he was saying on the field, your plays freaking suck and that kind of stuff. But like essentially, maybe he should have fought back more with Kyle Shanahan, but he took it in stride and let Kyle be the negative guy.
Yeah. Just briefly, all things considered, Jimmy really conducted himself very well as a member of that team.
He did.
great teammate, wonderful with the media. I think, again, I don't know him. He strikes me as being a decent guy.
Yeah, I mean, he was the highest paid member of the team. He's essentially the most powerful member of the organization. And he let Kyle Shanahan scapegoat him relentlessly for years and never said anything about it. Ever. How many quarterbacks would do that? Most quarterbacks use their power and essentially say, eventually, it's my team. Who are you talking about? He never did that. Maybe he should have. I don't know.
Aaron Rodgers would have done that.
Every quarterback would, essentially. Kyle Shanahan is very cavalier in scapegoating his quarterback, and I think you can do that when you have three guys who haven't gotten paid yet and are working to get that contract and impress you. But Jimmy, guys making $30 million a year, I guess Jimmy just tuned it out. He wouldn't answer his calls. That's what Kyle says.
Was he making $30 million a year?
27.
Do you make that much?
Not yet. The Niners paid him like $110 million. God love him.
Oh, Iggy.
So he smiled. He smiled. I said, okay, you blame me. It's fine. Just keep sending me those checks.